Hello, we're going to begin on Microsoft Excel tonight. To get to that, we're going to go to the Microsoft Applications Simnet folder on the left, go into the Excel folder, and we are going to begin with Guided Project 1-3. I've already got that open in another tab. First thing I want to do is grab my start file. If we're in Chrome, it's going to pop up right down here, and I want to click on it to launch Microsoft Excel. I'm going to bring Excel over. I'm going to click Enable Editing. And then I want my instructions in Excel side by side. You can either toggle between this video and your instructions, but I want to go over to the side, find my sweet spot. There we go. I want my instructions over here. So Excel, I'm going to give you a brief primer since this is the first thing. You have tabs across the top, very much like Word. We've got our Home tab, Clipboard group, Font group, Alignment group. Thing to note is there is horizontal and vertical alignment. We've got our number format group. Use a lot of numbers in Excel. It's usually used for financial or statistical purposes. We've got some conditional formatting, and some of these other menus are collapsed right now. This is how we could insert and delete cells. Our editing group, this is find and replace, that kind of thing. Insert tab, pretty similar to that Word. You can put in pictures. The main prominent thing in Excel is the charts area, which we'll be doing, I think, in chapter 2 or 3. The page layout, very similar to Word. Tell it what kind of paper you're using, what kind of orientation, that kind of thing. The Formulas tab are all the different formulas in Excel. There are hundreds of them. Don't worry, we're not going to use all of them. There's going to be very precise ones we'll use in these assignments. And formulas, I believe, are in chapter 2 or 3. This is just like chapter 1 in Word. It begins with formatting. The Data tab just has various tools to sort, filter, and otherwise manipulate your data. Review tab is similar to Word. You use this to check your spelling, that kind of thing. The View tab adjusts things like your page zoom. Help is help. And then I have an Acrobat tab you probably don't have. That's just an add-on. So we go ahead and start with our instructions here. It says in this project, we're going to edit a worksheet for Wherever Shoes that tracks their product inventory. We're going to change the zoom size, reset the panes, format data. We're going to copy an existing formula to calculate the value in the current stock. Insert a column for new data. After adjusting print options, we're going to set a print area for a specific product line. So some things you're going to get used to hearing me say in Excel. By default, the way my cursor is now, I call this the big X or the big T, big plus. When I go to this lower right corner, this is what they call the fill handle. I will call this skinny plus or little plus. So big plus, little plus. If you go to an area of a cell, you get these 4 arrows. This allows you to move data around. You don't want to actually do this. I'm just kind of showing you how it works. Undo button. And then to select a range of cells, if you have the big plus in the middle of the cells, you will just drag to select. Excel is divided into columns and rows, and where these columns and rows intersect is called a cell. So if they say click on B4, I would click here. It also shows me which cell I have selected up here. I could also type in, if I wanted to go to cell C5, I could type that in and it'll highlight cell C5. They have the split view right now. We're going to fix it in just a moment. So going down into my steps, we've opened this and we've clicked enable editing at the beginning. First thing we want to do is remove a split and freeze these panes. So we want to go, it tells us to go to the View tab in the Window group. So I'm going to go to the View tab, and in the Window group, it's this button right here, and I see the gray outline around it. Again, if Excel was full screen, it would say split, and the menu would look a little bit better. But because I'm doing it half screen like this, it's kind of collapsed. But this is what's causing the split. The split is useful if you have a big workbook and you want to work in different sections of it, but we don't. So we just want to click that to turn it off. That is turned off. Now I just see my data here. It looks like they've got a product inventory. So I want to click on cell A4. So I'm going to go A down to 4, click in the cell. And I want to freeze columns above this. So this is the freeze panes button. This is in the View tab in the Window group. And I just want to click freeze panes and choose freeze panes. When I do that, I get this line here. And what this does, click on this guy, it tells me a solid border. And then it wants me to scroll down to row 31 and click on cell E31. And what it wants me to notice is because I've frozen these panes as I scroll, these don't scroll off the top of the page because they're frozen. So it keeps my column headings here. So otherwise, I would just be in a sea of data. I wouldn't know what these were, but now I do. So it wants me to click on cell E31. So I find E, go down to 31. Again, these are highlighted. Tells me cell E31 over here. And it just wants me to type in the number 3 and press enter. Then it wants me to press Control Home. And it says the insertion point returns to A4. So I hold down the Control key on my keyboard and press the Home key on my keyboard above the directional arrows. And it takes me back, instead of taking me to A1, it takes me to my first unfrozen cell. That's what it wants to highlight there. So step 3 wants us to change the zoom size and unfreeze the pane. So it wants me to click the 100% button on the View tab in the Zoom group right here. And that zooms me out so I can see basically all of my data. Then it wants me to click the Freeze Panes button. And we notice, and then where it did say Freeze Pane, now it says Unfreeze Pane. So we click that. My solid line goes away. And now if I scroll, those go right off the top of the page. Okay, and then it wants me to click on cell A1. All right, step 4 just has us review the spelling in the document. So I'm going to go to the Reviewing tab. And in the proofing group, I just want to click the spell check button. I noticed that this first part, they've got it as rugged hiking boots. Maybe the Okie is showing through there, but we want to change it to rugged hiking boots. So that is correct. I'm just going to click Change All. That changes all of my instances there, and we are good to go with that. Step 5, the fill handle to copy a formula. The fill handle is the skinny plus I was talking about. So it wants me to click on cell H4. Up here, this is called the formula bar. And you'll notice most of these just have values typed in up here. But cell H4 has a formula. Formulas always begin with equals or another operator such as plus or minus. And then they say what it's going to do. So if I click in here, it tells me, hey, this is taking cell E4, the quantity, times cell G4, the cost, to get the value. So it's taking 5 times 46.5, and it comes up with 32.5. Well, I want to copy this formula down so it does that for each row. So how you do that is this little, again, I've got the big plus. When I go over this little box in the lower right corner of the cell, it changes to the little plus. This is my fill handle. And you can do this a couple of ways. You can drag it down and it will fill. And what I want you to notice is here it's E4 times G4, but as I go down, it goes E5 to G5. So it's a relative value, so it's going down with me. Since we've already got a data set in here, I'm going to go ahead and undo that last step, what our instructions say. Since we've already got data with kind of a bottom boundary, the quicker way to do this is I can point to that lower right corner and get the skinny plus and just double click. I double click and it fills it all the way to the bottom. The last step it wants me to do here is to hit Control Home. I'll go over here and I'm going to hit Control Home. This time it takes me to cell A1 because we don't have frozen cells. Step 6 just wants me to apply a theme. And the themes are in the page layout tab. Themes aren't used that much in Excel, so they don't have a design tab like they do in Word. And the themes have all just been compressed over here. So it just wants me to choose the Ion theme. So I'm going to click the themes button. I'm going to find Ion there. And you can see as I hover over these, the fonts change. It's just stylistic changes. I'm going to click Ion, and that changes my theme. Step 7 wants me to do some merge and center. This is just to make things look a little bit better. So I can see I've got my title here in cell A1 of wherever shoes, but I want it to be across all my data. So to select, I want to put my cursor in the middle of cell A1 so I get the big plus. Hold down my left mouse button and drag over to cell J1. And it gives you a lot of these references where it says cell, cell. This is a range. So it means go to A1, drag over to J1. And then I want to go back to my home tab. And in my alignment group, it's this icon right here that shows kind of a square with the dual arrows. That is the merge and center. So when I click this, it kind of now treats all of this like one big cell with my text in the middle of it. So step 7b wants us to do the same thing for the row behind it, A2 through J2. So same thing, I'm going to put my cursor in A2 so I get the big plus, drag over to J2, and click merge and center. Okay, step 8 wants us to apply cell styles and adjust row height. So it wants us to select cell A1, and then this is hidden under cells, I believe. Home tab styles group. Oh, I'm sorry, it's right here in the styles group. So we want to choose cell styles, and this is sort of like the styles in Word. They're just different types of styles. So for this one, we want to choose the title style. So we're going to choose that. And then we want to go to cell A2. Oops, I was in cell A2 instead of A1. Excuse me. So I'm going to click undo. I'm going to select cell A1. It now treats this whole thing as cell A1. So even if I click over here in what used to be J1, you'll notice up here it still treats this as A1 because it is a merged cell. So then I want to do cell styles, choose title. Then I want to click cell A2, go back to cell styles, and this time it wants me to choose heading 4. So you can see just some formatting changes here. So step 8C, I want to make sure I still have cell A2 selected. And this wants me to click the font size arrow and select 14 points. So this is just like in Word. I just want to click the down arrow here, choose 14 to make that a bit bigger. And it says the font size is overwrite the font size of the cell style. So now it wants me to point to the row 1 row heading. So a heading, a column heading or a row heading are these numbers over here. My cursor will change to a right arrow if I'm on a row heading, and it will change to a down arrow if I'm on a column heading. This will allow you to select the entire row or column. So it wants me to point to row 1, and then it says to drag and to select row headings 1 and 2. So I'm going to put my cursor on the row 1 row heading, hold down the left mouse button and drag down to get rows 1 and 2. Then in the home tab in the cells group, I want to choose format and then row height. This opens my row height box, and in that box I want to type in 22, our instructions there in step F, and click OK. That makes the row height of those two cells 22. Then I want to select cells A3 through J3. So all of my column headings there. And it wants me to change the cell styles to yellow, 40% accent 3. So I'm going to go back to cell styles. The yellows are here in the middle. If I hover over it, it'll say yellow, 40% accent 3. I want to choose that. And then the next step wants me to make them bold. So I just want to click the bold button in my font group. Then this one is a little wonky. It wants me to click the row 3 heading, point to the bottom border to display the resize handle. There's my heading. This, where it has the vertical or the horizontal line with the dual vertical arrows, is the resize. And then it wants me to drag it, and if I'm holding down my left mouse button, down to where it's 21 parentheses 28 pixels. This is incredibly hard to do to get it precise. So I recommend not doing it. It's just a different way of changing the row height. I'm going to show you even a third way. I'm just going to right click on my row 3 heading. I'm going to go right down to row height. It wants it to be 21. I'm going to type in 21. It's already there. Okay. I hover over it. Oh, I just moved it. I'm going to make it something different than 21. Then I'm going to right click, go to row height, type in 21, click OK, and I'm golden. That's just a better way to do it. And again, Simnet doesn't care how you do it as long as you get it done. This is a really clunky way to do it. Step M wants me to click the zoom out button, which is down here on my status bar, if necessary, so I can see all of my rows. So I'm going to zoom out just one time so I can see everything in my workbook. Okay, step 9. Step 9 is going to have us change alignment, format values, apply borders, and increase the indent. So it wants me to select D4 through F39. Pretty big selection. So I'm going to go to D4. Put my cursor in the middle so I get the big plus. Hold down the left mouse button. I'm going to drag over to F and all the way down to 39. So I'm getting the size, quantity, and whether it's men's or women's. First thing it wants me to do, I clicked over here, but if I just click on my title, I've still got that selected, is click the center button in the to center align this data. Again, center is horizontal. This one will be called middle. This is the vertical alignment. This is the horizontal alignment. So I'm going to click center here, and that centers them in each cell, making them a little bit easier to read. Then it wants me to select cells G4 through H39. So I'm going to go in the middle of G4, hold down my left mouse button over to H and down to 39. And this wants me to apply the accounting number format. This is in the number groups. If we hit the down arrow here, we see all the different values. Keep in mind that accounting and currency are different. So it says accounting. We're going to put it in accounting. This puts our dollar signs in here and our decimal. And then these pound signs or hashtags, these indicate that the columns are not wide enough to display the data. It's going to have us fix that in another step. So just leave that alone for now. So step E wants us to select cells A3 through J39. So our whole data set there. And we want to add some borders to this to make it easier to read. I just want to show you this real quick. You don't need to do anything. But if I were to print this document out, right now it's going to look like this. It's just going to be a sea of data because these grid lines by default do not print. So it wants me to select A3 through J39. Then it wants me to click on my borders button, which is in my font group, and it wants me to choose all borders. You can see it adds this darker lines here. And now if I were to go to a print preview, you can see it's going to print out and give the user a grid so they can read it easier. This is just for easier readability. Okay, while those cells are still selected, it wants me to click the font size drop down and make them 12 point. Okay. Now it wants me to select cells B4 through C39. So I'm going to find B4, put my cursor in the middle so I get the big plus, drag over to C and down to 39. And it wants me to click the increase indent button one time. This moves the label away from this border for easier reading. So in my alignment group, I've got an increase and a decrease indent button. I'm just going to click increase indent one time, and you see them get increased to come away from the cell wall. Step I wants me to click and drag to select columns A through J. So we want to go up to the column headings. So I'm going to go up to the column A column heading. So I have the down arrow. Hold it down. I want to drag all the way over to J. So I'm selecting all of these columns. Then I want to put my cursor between any two of them, and my cursor will change to this vertical line with these dual horizontal arrows. This is where you could drag to resize, but if you double click, it will auto size these. So I'm going to go ahead and double click. And you can now see that all of my cells that did not hold, or all of my columns that did not meet the width of their longest row of text, are now auto fit. And finally, step K wants me to select and center align the labels in row 3. So I'm going to select just by going to the middle of cell A3, so I have the big plus, holding and dragging over to J3, and then I just want to click the center align button in my alignment group. Step 10 wants us to insert a column and create a pattern to fill data. So it wants me to right click on the column heading B. So I'm going to right click on column heading B, and I want to go down to insert. This gives me a new column and it moves all of my data over. Then it says to click in cell B3 and type in this red text here, disk question mark. Make sure you type it in exactly, disk with a C, capital D, and a question mark, or it will ding you. And then it wants me to select cell B4, type in no, press enter, type in no in B5 and press enter, type in yes in B6 and press enter. It says the pattern is 2 occurrences of no and 1 occurrence of yes. Then it wants me to select cells B4 through B6 and increase the indent twice. I don't know why they didn't just have a center align it, but that's what it says to do. And then with those cells still selected, or reselect them if you need to, it wants me to point to the fill handle. And what it wants us to notice is because we set that pattern of no, no, yes, when I click this, it maintains that pattern and fills my data all the way down. So it's just showing us how the fill pointer works. Then it wants me to select cells A4 through A39 and increase the indent once. The last step says hit Control Home, and it takes me to my merged cell A1 at the top. Step 7 wants us to change the sheet tab. So this workbook only has one sheet in it. Most workbooks will have more than one sheet in it. So to change this from sheet 1, it wants us to call it inventory. We just double click on it and type in inventory and press enter. Step 12 wants us to use the page layout view to insert a footer. So to change the view, we're going to go over to the, this has us do it in the status bar. We could go over to the view tab, and we've got page layout view here. And I'm going to stay on the home tab, and down in our taskbar, we've also got page layout down here. That's how it wants us to do it. Same thing, does the same purpose. This shows us how this document would print out. So we've clicked page layout, and then it says click in the center header section of the header. So I'm going to do this. This takes me to my header and footer tools tab. Then I want to click the Go to Footer button in my navigation pane. This takes me down to the center of my footer. It says click the middle section if necessary. So if you're not in the center, click the middle section. And then it wants me to click the File Name button in the Header and Footer Tools Elements group. And it's right here. What this does is puts in this ampersand bracket file. This is the placeholder that when I click out of this cell is going to pull the file name into this cell. So I'm just going to click somewhere out of it, and you can see it's pulled the file name down into my cell. Then I want to click the normal view. I'm going to do that right here in my task pane. And then it wants me to hit Control Home because you can see I'm here in C45, way away from my date. I'm going to Control Home. That takes me back to cell A1. And that footer, let me just show you real quick. Well, it has us do a print preview. I'll show you in just a second. So step 13 has us change the page setup options. So we want to go over to page layout. I want to show you a print preview again real quick to show you the differences. So right now we've got a 2-page. If we printed this out on paper, it's going to print out on 2 pages. Our columns are split. It's not great. So we want to go to page layout tab and we want to click the page setup launcher. On the launcher, the first thing it wants us to do is change the orientation to landscape. It's going to rotate your paper. And then under scaling, we want to choose fit to 1 pages wide by 1 pages tall. Click OK. And it says to go back to normal view, but we are already in normal view. So the last thing it wants us to do is to set a print area. So it wants us to select cell A1 through K11. So I'm going to choose A1, which again is this whole merged cell, over to K, and down to 11. All the rugged hiking boots. And let's say we're not concerned with this whole document. We have somebody that just wants this portion. So then we're going to go to print area. I'm on the page layout tab, and we're going to choose set print area. Then it wants me to hit Control Home to kind of deselect that. And then it wants me to show you this print preview. So I'm going to go File, Print, and I'm going to make this big so you can see it. Now we see that it only prints the rugged hiking boots, and we have our header down at the bottom. Last step, I want you to save this document. It says close it, but go ahead and leave it open until you have uploaded and such. So I'm going to go ahead and say go back to the top here. I'm going to upload my file. Click and save one more time to make sure I got it. There it is with today's date and time. Submit it, and let's see how we did. Not too bad. Looks like I got something wrong here. Looks like I did not indent cell A39, it says. But it looks like it didn't get me on the rest of them, so I could go back and fix that if I want to. It looks like my cell A39 is indented, so if it gets you on that, actually just shoot me an email and I will fix that for you because it looks good to me. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please reach out to me.